Ai, gente, que saco. So, thank you for coming. Thank you. For me, it's very difficult to make this presentation because English is not one language I am very secure for talking about my practices. But I think the images give me help a lot for illustrate about little bit I will talk from this moment. For me, it's important can start thinking about when I am can start thinking performance because when I make this presentation for you, I thinking a lot how I am share in this moment, in this time, how how creative process make a sense in this moment of my life because I have 20 years old of in experience of performance and I create one trajectory in my country about this media. And when I can start talking about this process in other contexts, I need to translate. It's very hard to translate performance. It's more hard to translate radical performance because when I make performance on the streets in my country, is because I am very angry of the politicals in my country. It's because this, and I see after I am finally the university, I have these very privileged tools. It's very privileged for me. Performance is very privileged tools for thinking and organize yourself and experimenting your body. This is how you talk now. So I can start this conversation very, I don't know, very fast, but I prefer reading one text because for me it's more easy or not easy, but more secure. I read one text. Sometimes I don't read correct the words because I'm not secure, but if you want to talk to me about, I am open, okay? Now I can start. So, Flash's book, When Performance is a Presence. This presentation is an exercise of memory. For me, performance is a body. Body is all memories. Estou aprendendo a voar, a levitar. 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 Não tem ninguém me ensinando. Estou aprendendo sozinha, pouco a pouco. A cada lição de sonho. Não é uma imagem muito sutil, mas sim persistente. Já fiz muitas aulas e sou melhor voando do que antes. Agora, confio mais em minha capacidade, mas ainda sinto medo. Ainda não consigo controlar as direções muito bem. Eu me inclino para frente, em direção à porta. É uma porta como aquela, entre meu quarto e o corredor. Parece estar bem longe, mas eu me inclino na direção dela, mantendo o corpo tenso e rígido. Solto o que estiver segurando, o que tem me impedido de subir ou de cair até agora. E me apoio no ar, me esforçando para subir, não me movimentando para cima, mas também não exatamente caindo. Começo a me mover como se escorregasse pelo ar, flutuando alguns metros acima do chão, presa entre o terror e a alegria. Flutuo em direção à porta. Uma luz fria e pálida vem dali. Então, deslizo um pouco para a direita e um pouco mais. Estou vendo que vou errar a porta e bater na parede, mas não consigo parar nem me virar. Eu flutuo para longe da porta, para longe do brilho frio e para dentro de uma outra luz. A parede à minha frente arde. O fogo surgiu do nada, atravessou a parede e começou a ir em minha direção, a me buscar. O fogo se espalha, flutuo dentro dele. Ele cresce ao meu redor. Eu me debato e tento afastar, agitando as mãos no ar e no fogo, chutando, ardendo. Escuridão. Talvez eu me desperte um pouco. Às vezes acontece quando o fogo me engole. Isso é ruim. Quando desperto totalmente, não consigo voltar a dormir. Tento, mas nunca consegui. Dessa vez, não desperto totalmente. Eu entro na segunda parte do sonho, a parte que é comum e real. A parte que realmente aconteceu anos atrás, quando eu era pequena. Apesar de, na época, não parecer nada demais. Escuridão clareando, estrelas lançando sua luz fria, pálida e cintilante. As estrelas são grátis. Ela não dá de ombros. Eu preferiria ter as luzes da cidade de volta e o quanto antes melhor. Mas pelas estrelas podemos pagar. De acordo com meu pai, a cidade grande é uma carcaça coberta por um monte de vermes. Acho que ele tem razão, apesar de nem todos os vermes estarem em todas as cidades. Há vermes aqui também. Mas os vermes não costumam gostar de acordar cedo. Passamos por pessoas deitadas, dormindo nas calçadas, e algumas estavam acabando de acordar, mas elas não nos deram atenção. Vi pelo menos 3 pessoas que não voltariam ao acordar nunca mais. Uma delas não tinha cabeça. Eu me peguei olhando ao redor à procura da cabeça. Depois disso, tentei não olhar mais ao redor. Uma mulher jovem, nua e imunda, passou cambaleando por nós. Observei sua expressão relapsa e percebi que ela estava atordoada, bêbada, ou coisa assim. Talvez ela tivesse sido estuprada repetidamente, a ponto de enlouquecer.
I'm very emotional of this work because I make this work when one day after my house is fired in Salvador de Bahia. This place
is very special because it's a garden made from Lina Bobard, and it's very curious because this garden is very protected from many institutional way of Brazil, and I never know about this garden. But one artist, the name is Zach Julian, he has one exhibition now in the city, and he can start the producer from this show he present now in Maastricht, and he invited me from see this place, and wow, this place is so amazing. I never see this in my country, and I realized this access the people from outside has in my country, and is a moment I have opportunity for using my city, my country. And this performance make me emotional because I remember many things. So I can start again. Flash's book, chapter 2. When performance is a presence. This presentation is an exercise of memory. For me, a performance is a body. Body is all memories. Body is a performative text of memories. Body, a poetic translation, a poetic of translations. Here, now, of a past in the future. To carry out this exercise, I went into my research in detail. I went to my research in detail to look at what I have in my personal archive and to be able from the memories filmed and photographed to remember what I felt when I doing the short performance. Looking at the record that was made me almost a decade ago to write these words made me realize how important an archive is to materialize ephemeral process in performance, and also realize the material that is interesting to keep to illustrate this narrative and what is just an excess of a process and research. Imagine through images the sensation of each moment of my experiment that express freedom, the freedom to show what the patriarchy says is to write. My performance methodology is based on the archive. Investigate the archive. What information does the archive have? What is important to archive? The archive is my obsession for researching the poetics to come in performance. My creative obsession creates different sports and media on the same subject for archive. Like a broken copy machine, I repeat the subject in different ways, investigate the archive. I listen to the archive to translate into a work of art. Listen is my poetic translate after headling medical reports, incident reports, newspapers reports from the time, photos, learned musical instruments, and other personal objects. Over the last 30 years, I have dedicated myself to critically elaborating the counter narratives about colonial archives of various Brazilian contexts, thoroughly researching the words that were archived, as well as the description that instrumentalized the archive. The first archive I had access to was in Salvador, in the state of Bahia, in Brazil, is a eugenic archive. Just remember it making me angry, so I want to write the name of this archive. I will stop here. Not write about this institution is trying to forget the anger I have when analyzing each document in the archive. I found mortal remains of racialized people in the archive of this institution. It was very sad to touch the bones of people who in that archive had no name, but in the writing report, the word Negro appeared in eloquent sequence. And unfortunately for me, the only thing I could do was pray and bless Jews' remains so that they would have a new cycle in the same archive. My dream is to be able to burn Jews' remains to close the cycle. I remember that after this experience, I spent many days alone in silence with the plants and the cats in my house thinking about what the human remains of Jews people archived like a rumble in a deposit means. I was overcome with anger. With this experience of the archive, I began to think about the performance I was doing. At the same time, I thought that somehow my performance was a response from the archive. I played an angry response against archive violence. Therefore, I bring you just a few fragments of my long experience with performance art. Through archival research, they are my impressions elaborate after many performance activate exercise. Plantation Memories is a series I work for 10 years old. I can start with Merci beaucoup Blanc. Merci beaucoup Blanc is one experiment. You can start make this on the street naked. I use the white ink and painting my body with white. One illusion of the whiteness in my body, and I lose my blackness, and I am whiteness and black because the capitalism make one performance very contradictory, and this elaborate this narrative make me horror and understand more what I am, how my position in the world. Merci beaucoup Blanc is the first performance I create in this trilogy because Plantation Memories is about my performance in Brazil. Brazil for me is the territory of plantation. Plantation for Black body with our only object. In this trilogy, I confuse the viewer who seeks only beauty in artistic language, as this trilogy narrates the horror of the slavery as a cry for freedom. The trilogy comprises the performances Merci beaucoup Blanc, the experience, the Flooding Head film, and one installation, The Unpayable Debt. Unified by a common creative methodology and thematic thread, these works are intricately connected through a silence narrative that express a profound yearning from freedom. Merci beaucoup Blanc, this image you see now is one action. I paint my black body with white ink. The artistic research aims to create an aesthetical experience that moves within the fictional realms of photography, film, and live action. And at the same time, it affirms a poetical strategy of elaboration of the Black political struggles in everyday life of racialized communities. Experience the Flooding Head is my film this film, I can start one conversation of the book From Grada Quilomba, Plantation Memories. She presents the mask from Anastasia. Anastasia is one person live in Brazil. She's a slavery, and she has one mask because she speak a lot, and the person has your possession decide put this mask for she don't speak. And Grada Quilomba, when she thinking about this economy of silence, I understand a little bit about that, and I can start thinking, and I can start thinking about how this image reproduce imaginaries in Brazil. And my idea is can start when walking, ritual work, walking in on the street, make this image of the slavery and how the people interact or not. For my surprise, people interact a lot, but I decide cut and make a film because for me, this moment in this production, I decided not make one archive about the performance, but one narrative, and the performance is the narrative from the film. This is The Unpayable Debt by Denise Ferreira da Silva. This is a title of the project comes from. This project is a moment I can start to study the the Black radical thinking. This is one. I think is what not. I think is one thinking from USA, from the Black radical trajectory, and when I can start to study with this author, I can start thinking about how I am produce performance, but how I invisibilize my body, and I talk to about the same question, but in other medias. This is my first inspiration from one installation because for me it's very important not to lose the whiteness, and I can start to work with light, white light, and neon light, many neon light in the black room, and I will make performance when the light can start. I will have one person for control the light, and I have the light very crazy, very intense. For me is one metaphor. The white is because all the time we talk to the black or the color black is dirty. For me is one metaphor for the white light. Sometimes it's dirty because we don't possible see the space. So from this moment, I think other way from performance now. Now I can start thinking about how the performance is a fictional monument, drawings, and other supports, because I don't lose the idea from work in archive. I am in this fucking repetition of archive, archive, archive. And I can start to work with the archive of the plants, because when I translate one author from Germany, he lives in Brazil, in Salvador de Bahia, in the 60s, in the same time of the Pierre Verger. Pierre Verger is one French ethnographer. He has, your collection has a lot of photos from Black people from diaspora, and he make one beautiful archive. Sometimes I am very scared because he's white man from Paris, has a lot of money, and he has one house in Brazil, and this archive is very powerful, and I work in this archive, and I see he painting all plants, aromatic plants from the candomblé. Candomblé is one one religion very important in Salvador de Bahia, because this one religion survive. It survive one way very secret, because is a traditional pass from family. And when you go to Salvador, you see this energy and this powerful culture, very, 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 yeah, I don't know, I don't have words from this experience, and I can start see the archive of the plants. And in 2021, when we have this problem of the COVID, I can start one residency in Firenze, in Italy, and I have one possibility for can start one new work. And I decide thinking about the same subject about the slavery traffic, colonialism, but one way of the plants. And I make the abolition garden. Abolition garden is one metaphor for you thinking about the abolitionists, but one way very, how to say this, not quite, but very mysterious, because the abolitionists, when they can start talking about in Brazil, in 8, I think, I don't know the dates, and they can start thinking about one way very invisible. It's very beautiful, this history, because, for example, here in Yavanak is one plantation. This plantation, the people decide I am part of the abolitionism, but they don't possibly speak for all people, because, it's one movement. And for the people knows this movement is here in Yavanak, they plant, this is the history in Brazil, they planted the flower camellia in the garden. I am slavery and I am a fugitive and I see camellia. Wow, Yavanak is a place for I am stop a little bit, And I think this history is very powerful and it's very beautiful, because the history of the plant for you make one freedom from one community. Because this history, I decided to make this abolition garden here in Europe, when imagination very political, because we don't have, when you are migrant, you don't have any access. And when I created this idea from the plot in one plantation, is from how we will survive in the space of art when you are racialized people, migrant, and you don't have the category of the Europeans, but you need to create relation in this space. How you make this way? And I can start thinking about how the traces of the plants has in the candomblé, and how plants in the candomblé has in Firenze. This is my first place I make this garden. And I can start to see the Colonial archive in Firenze. And I have a lot of surprise, because major part from the plants is from the catalog from the ethnobotanical. And for me, the curious moment when I see the information is we don't know where come from the plants, because you see the archive. One seed, this is from, for example, the seeds from the plants, the name is Ruta graveolens. I see in Brazil, because the slavery traffic, and this is from the Africa Central. And I talk to people study plants, they tell me the same way. But when you see it in the archive, the plants is come from Europe. And I think, And for me, this is very nice for see how the system but erases the information and produce one archive, and the only information you have is the archive. Yes, my interest now is about that. This is my garden in Firenze, in Florence. My plan is can start this garden again in Florence, but in other place. And here in Yavanak, my idea is plant some species, because I talked to Julia for giving for her seeds, because when I can start these plants in Firenze, I meet a lot of people from the diaspora, and I talking about how the histories the plants have for us, And I receive a lot of seeds, and we can start one bank of seeds and share. These plants, for example, major part of the seeds is from Cabo Verde, because I can start talk one person from Cabo Verde in Portuguese. And yes, it's very nice. And yeah, and for here, in this time from Yavanai, my idea is re-elaborate this project, but in the second chapter, because here I have other opportunity for see this materiality in the other way. For example, in the decomposition. I am interested now in this movement of the materiality is in decomposition. I can start, of course, the idea of this project in performance. Yes, it's me. And I make one performance in this other open studio. And I prepare my charcoal in this time of this residence. I take the wood and make a fire, prepare all charcoal I make. And this is my first installation, Dive in the Dark. And my second moment, I can start drawing, because now I invited you for go to the project space for see my other part of the project. For me, this presentation now is only for you understand why I am drawing now after the radical work, and how my idea, how the line of my idea, and that's it. And if you come to the studio,